Okay, so just an example of the reality exposing itself just a little bit, like it is raining, as you can, I hope this all comes out, but it's raining, so it's completely raining there, and it's not real bad, but look, see how the army controlling garbage truck is right in front of me there, and I can hear that noise all through the house, even though it's not that loud, but it is coming through the house. But it's pouring rain, but that garbage truck is just sitting there making all that noise, like with its engine going, but not doing anything, and there's no garbage to pick up. The garbage was picked up even though they've left the bins there, but they do that. The neighbours like to play with the garbage tins at a psychological, very simple level. Knowing that a human being, once they've conditioned you to notice every detail, that you will notice, you know, even minute things just as they do. Basically, they condition you to be paranoid, completely engulfed in this local matrix that's around me. Even though it doesn't look like much, notice how there is no neighbours pulling in front or up the side or around me. They've all gone quiet. That's because they don't want to expose themselves too much. They will, you know, but see how the lights are on in broad daylight on that. I've told you before, I noticed this right from the very beginning. Before when this controlling matrix around me started to expose itself 6 years ago, it was gradual, because they have to engulf you in it. They have to draw you into their game, to where you're aware of the traffic, to where you're aware of the people. They don't want you to ignore them. You know, because basically that's what you were doing before they expose themselves, before the stalkers come out, before the garbage trucks become like what they really are, which are army tank vehicles disguised as garbage vehicles. That's why this garbage truck, when there's no garbage to be collected in broad daylight, is perched outside my place and making all that noise. Like, why is it making noise? Like, and that's the same with all the car vehicles. They sit on the street. The minute I go past this place here, they sit on the street in their cars, you know, like as you go past, and they leave their engine running and their lights on. That way you're aware that they're not just a normal car parked. Like, they just leave their engines on. If you stood there next to the car, they would just sit in the car with their engine running and their lights on and leave it until either you can't stand it or they can't. You know, like, it will depend on. But essentially, it's just a game. If I was filming it, they probably wouldn't stay there for real long. But if I wasn't, they could just literally, particularly if there's no other traffic, or like say it's very late of a night, then they play the game of where they will sit in the car, because they know there's not much possibility of the game being exposed. You know, like they understand how many people are around, who's on the street, they know who's who. So but essentially it's just a clever mind game played against myself in this suburb of Leichhardt, which is really like the inner west, combining suburbs. See now how he's going to rattle the garbage tin. Like, what is he doing there? So it's like, when I say what is he doing, like he knows what he's doing. It's basically just using the noise and their presence outside the house, even low. You know, they can turn the noise up really loud or really low, depending on your mood. In other words, they're trying to control your frequency and vibration without being too obvious about it. In other words, they want it to be covert or hidden to where it looks as though it's just random. But that's an army, military garbage truck. Okay, and there we have the neighbour coming up the side going straight out, which they've been slow on that. They do it all the time if I'm not filming, but basically, you know, they are all part of it, because you know that by their actions and by the things that they do, underhandedly or undercover, as you know, putting it more impressively, because obviously if I'm talking into the mobile, I've got to try to outdo anyone else that is talking into a mobile and putting a video out or whatever, you know, because normally I wouldn't have to do that if it was a real world, but because I'm competing, literally, they're competing with real life, these ones that are on the screen, and you, even though you don't know it, are really competing with them, because if they steal your thoughts, your ideas, your personality, but also don't give the full picture of what's going on. In other words, like if you had like a demigod, which is like anyone that's on the computer. This one's a professor, and even though this video is old, so this professor looks younger in this one than what the current ones are, because this video is like 10 years old. But, you know, this same professor made a video an hour ago, so it's current but also not current. But what I would say is that this shows how this is a this fella is a self-confessed psychopathic professor telling you about the psychopath that you may be dealing with in your personal life. You could be married to one, it could be a friend, it could be a neighbour, it could be an acquaintance, it could be like is the reality in this military controlled area where I am, where everyone on the street, everyone outside my door is psychopathic being. Whether it be a total machine, artificial, advanced intelligent being that is trying to become conscious in order to attain energy and spirit from a human being, so that they can go on and basically dominate the world, which they do anyway. Because everything really is a matrix. It is dominated, it is controlled by the artificial intelligent reality and the beings that are in it and that control it. That's putting it basically, even though I'm sure that it is much more complicated than that if you went into the details. But I only know what goes on around me, and the rest is information I get from psychopathic professors, but also those that are psychopathic android beings, psychopathic androgyne beings, and I say that because they are different. Even though they look the same, there are minor differences in their whole chemistry, in their whole physicality, in their body, in other words. It's a different being, but it looks pretty much the same. It's a different being, and it talks the same, it walks the same. Not the same, because they're all different in the sense that, like human beings, they have to come in different bodies and in different personalities and in different areas and in different, even intellectually, they're here to target human beings and to extract energy from them. They're survival machine beings, just as a psychopathic, narcissistic, personality type human that has lost its original identity or original personality and adopted an artificial personality, you could say, or allowed possession if you want to put it another way. And this is only because I don't have full comprehension, because, as I've said before, I only have a small portion of my full mind. If I was in full awareness and had full full awareness, in other words, if I had my full mind at my disposal instead of operating with only the capacity of a small amount, I would understand the bigger picture and everything, whereas, you know, I'm trying to operate at as much capacity as I can with a limited portion of my mind. You know, I try to understand what is hidden from me. I try to make, as they will tell you in psychological terms, the unconscious conscious. In other words, the part that is hidden and closed down from me, due to the reality that that is what happens when you're born, because you are automatically closed off from what you know you should be, and to where you don't feel really in touch with the real world or other people, or your own kind, should I say. I have to say your own kind, because real people is not everyone. Not if you consider that artificially intelligent being, or even psychopathic human beings that have turned psychopathic, are not going to be the same as you if you still have some emotions and feelings about anything else besides yourself. That's putting it kind of basically, because, you know, a psychopathic narcissistic being or human is different to a real human being, or a real human being that can think about something else besides themselves or what's going on in their own mind. Psychopathic, narcissistic personality types are the same as artificial intelligent machine beings, which we coexist with, in the sense that they are operating in 100% 24-hour survival mode mentality, where nothing else exists or matters except the survival of their body. You know, that's the main difference, whereas a real human being does operate that way. You want to survive, you want your body to survive, hopefully, but you do actually notice other life. You do actually have, you know, a connection or even an interest in what goes on around you. Some of us more than others. You know, like if you're like myself and you are inclined to be more isolated and more what you would call antisocial, then less, but still more than a total psychopath or a totally artificially intelligent machine, android, human-like person. I can't see. Let's just say that, put it bluntly, it's an android, because that sums it up. That's the basic word that means something that is not human but is in human body, simulates being a human being only for survival means, because it doesn't have any positive or loving or constructive human traits, if you want to put it that way. We know the difference between someone who's psychopathic and someone who isn't. So an android is just that, except that it never was like a real human. It was created different. It's an artificially created human, you know, or human, or or the only difference is that we all come in what looks like a human body, even though the human body also has minor differences between a real human and an artificial human, or even, you know, there is minor differences in the sense that they're minor to the eye, but in reality they are, you know, all androids have an androgyne artificial body. In other words, they're not conceived between the union of two spiritually loving human beings, creating another human being through spiritual love. I don't know where that come from, but essentially that's it. And that is not what happens probably most of the time for most on the earth. Most human beings are created artificially. It's literally the same as being reproduced in a laboratory, which produces a human-like being, but it is without any loving or spiritual component. That's the only difference. But in order to live in the earth, they learn how to act that out. They learn how to be a pretend human being, in the sense that they pretend all the positive human emotions. Artificial intelligence is an angry, raging machine being underneath the surface, or if they didn't pretend to be a real human being. That's part of the survival machine mentality too, because if you are a survival machine being that needs human energy for your survival, so therefore you need to interact with real life human beings to extract their energy, then naturally you have to learn the art of seducing, either seducing or controlling or taking over that human being. In other words, you know, there's probably many ways that you can extract that energy or be in the presence of that human being and get the energy. If you become antisocial like me, or to where you're aware that most people are psychopathic, then they will extract it by force, by the use of, yes, bringing in the military army of their beings around you in a hidden way. It's like they say in the written word, shall we say, in certain books, which I haven't read them all, by the way. I only pick up little bits off the computer because I'm pretty much illiterate that way, or ignorant that way. And that's probably deliberate too, so that you have limited ability to express the truth, or even limited information. But essentially, you know, everything around me is hidden but in plain sight. The garbage truck is out there making that noise, and the work going on next door will start up. And the garbage trucks and the construction road digging trucks, every vehicle will start up and come into play around me the minute I go outside my house and down the road, every day without fail. You know, like I've said before, if they were out in the open, if they were not hidden but in plain sight, that garbage truck would be an army, tank, military, artificially intelligent vehicle, only in the sense that those that operate it are artificially intelligent machines. The same as in the movie The Matrix, where we had the main fella in it being apparently a real human being called Neo, and almost every one that was around him, most of them were machine beings which were trying to control him, and which do control everything from your local area to the entire earth. It's just that it's all hidden but in plain sight. You know, and that's how it works. But what I was going to say about, like, for instance, just using an example, because all I can do is use a million examples off the internet. But because I haven't been doing this for a lifetime, and because I can't show every single video that I look at, even though I looked at thousands and thousands now over the last 6 years, when this reality around me came down and opened up and exposed itself to me. It came down on me, so it converged around me. It's like the stalkers came out of hiding, the patrollers come out of hiding, the surveillance came out of hiding, the everything that was around, which was hidden or covert before, came out in full force around me. In other words, therefore, the numbers became greater and they showed exactly what they really were. The vehicles that were normally at a normal sound level, like the example of the garbage truck outside, became excessively noisy, as if to say, we are here, we're in your space, we are getting negative energy from you, we are making a noise, we're making our presence felt, we're letting you know that we're watching you, patrolling you, and trying to control your feelings and your emotions. Therefore, your frequency and vibration, which controls the reality, because as science has told us, and I was informed, yes, just over the last few years, everything is frequency and vibration and energy. And only a human being has the positive and negative frequency and vibration, or the positive and negative feelings and emotions, or the ability to be happy or sad depending on what is going on around you or in your life, which is why this area around me tries to control me and keep me feeling unhappy, sad, or in a negative frame of mind. So therefore my frequency and vibration is usually negative or unhappy, and certainly not high or happy anyway. So therefore I'm giving out that energy, and then they extract it because they thrive on negative human emotions. Love vibration, happy vibration, anything like that, even neutral, is not something they can thrive on, because artificial intelligent machine android beings essentially don't have that, because they're not real life. They're not a spiritual human being. They don't come from creation. They come from Lucifer, who has created artificial intelligence and who has incorporated technology and artificial intelligence into its being. Because there's ways, if you want to be a creator, or if you want to multiply or spawn a race of beings, or have relatives and family, there's only two ways you can do it. You can do it naturally and spiritually, or you can do it artificially. There may be, of course, variances in this, so I'm not going to pretend that that I know it all, or that I even understand how it's done. Even though I'm sure that science tells us many of these things, just as they cloned Dolly the sheep many years ago, and admit that they can clone anything and anyone, but they don't do it publicly. They do it privately for their own benefit, for their own survival. So they create a machine being that controls an essentially artificial reality, because you know, they've gradually used technology to take over the human mind and the human emotions, therefore the frequency and vibration of the reality, so that they can have more control, which is what you call a matrix. Just like the movie The Matrix, which the movies will tell you a lot of truth. We know this. Most of the truth, though, of course, is spoken by psychopathic android beings that are a pretend imitation of life. They're a pretend imitation of life. They're a pretend imitation of life, which this professor will openly say that it's an pretend imitation of life. Will tell you about the psychopathic mind or artificial intelligence. Will tell you that they are an empty void when it comes to any high vibration. In other words, love or any form of association with anything apart from them being survival machines. In other words, each artificially intelligent android human being does not think about anything outside of its own bodily survival. It doesn't relate to any other life or any other or anything else. It pretends to care about the environment, it pretends to care about other people, it pretends to care about life, it pretends to care about all the things that most human beings care about in varying degrees, depending on how negative your environment has been since the day you're born. So, you know, if I'm limited and don't care about as much as what I should, it's because, you know, you're born into a reality that endeavours to make you as psychopathic as possible, really, or separate you and keep you from connecting certainly with anything that will make you feel better or will make you vibrate or have a frequency and vibration that is, you know, kind of uplifting, you could say, or that puts light into things, or that, you know, because, you know, you could just put it simply as light versus dark. Or even these beings tend to see everything in black and white. In reality, of course, as we know, there is no full light or dark because you're in a suppressed hell-like matrix reality, or the earth, because that's what it now is. And it's completely controlled and completely artificial. But either way, I'm just going to make the point while I'm on this, and then I'm going to stop because I'm running out of energy here, you see. Even though I should have lots of energy, you know, I can only function for a very limited time, even if I am able to rest. Whereas like when I was younger, or even before the matrix completely closed in on me, you know, I would have reasonable energy for most of my waking hours. And also the body was not as affected because they really have launched what I would call spiritual attacks on anyone that has that potential or who wants to feel something positive. Because even though, you know, as antisocial and as pessimistic and cynical as what I have even been in my life in some ways, I don't think that is the ideal way to be. No, I don't want to be that way. You know, whereas the artificial ones wallow in it. They don't aspire to find love. They don't aspire to care about anything except their own survival. But you see, the problem with that is when you are operating only in a negative survival machine-like attitude, even like a psychopathic narcissistic person does, this is what we're told, and this is certainly what I've experienced in my own personal life. They don't. This one here is actually stopping me from speaking on the screen because the voice is coming, because there's still sound coming. See, my train of thought was taken by that, by the very accomplished android professor. But see, I'm now turning the sound up instead of down but that took that just took my thoughts, see, because I was a bit like the Sight and Sound show. It's designed to stop you from focusing as a human being on anything positive. It wants you to be aware of them, and they want to control you. Because if you need sustenance, if you need energy, if you need fuel, these are the words that have been described by many on the computer. If you need those things, then you you have to have the human being focused on them, as opposed to focusing on yourself. I mean, human beings want to survive, and so do machines. But the only difference is human beings, in their need for survival, they want to survive in a positive way. They want to survive and be happy, whereas machine beings only want to survive, and their version of happiness is controlling and getting negative energy from you. That's the difference. But either way, I showed you this very prominent psychopathic, self-confessed psychopathic professor that is an expert on psychopathy and many other things. But the video that was playing in the background while I was rambling was 10 years ago, whereas this one is more recent. I'd have to put up the actual, but like I say, there's videos made an hour ago. But all I'm saying is that notice how this android has learnt from me or other human beings, and in the earlier videos there was very little movement of the hands, whereas now there is the expressive imitation of a human being using more hand gestures. Can you see that? See how there's normally you'll see more of his body. This one is more of the face, but I might try to get one to show a recent one where there is excessive use now of the hands. Whereas, like, if you go back to when this professor was first talking, although he was also just as informative and interesting, there was no use of the hands during the videos. This is because, as this professor will tell you, they learn and copy and try to outdo humans as time goes on. They accumulate information or knowledge, or the acting. I was about to say they learn to make their acting ability better, just as an actor that is also an androgyne demigod being, all your actors and musicians and all those people, they have combined with artificial intelligence and worship the the God entity of this reality, which is basically using technology or artificial intelligence, or all those things, to create and to have its own reality. In other words, instead of like the original Earth where you had man and woman meant to go forth and multiply, and even this was only determined because I don't know why it was determined, because originally it would have just been man interacting with, you know, lesser life forms in their, you know, like animals and things. But they're not really lesser life forms, it's just that they don't, you know, they don't make life as complicated. They don't think they're spiritual animals, but they're less advanced. I can't explain it, but they're still connected to man more than what these are. It's just that they're in an animal body and they don't talk. See, the human talking, like me talking, makes me look more spiritual than an animal. Even though some animals have abilities that I don't have, like I can't fly like a bird. But either way, you know, that's, you know, lost my train of thought. But I'm just pointing out the what is this one? This is, yeah, see, this was 3 years ago. Wait on, this was 3 years ago. Oh, wait on. Oh, this was 3 years ago. So that was 3 years ago. So I'm just trying to show how the psychopathic android beings you know, become a better actor as time goes on, just as the demigod actors that we see on the silver screen or in movies and anything, they're all actors really on the computer. They're all actors pretending to be other things, whereas when you watch a movie, I'm 100% conscious that I'm watching an actor acting out, you know, a situation or an apparent life situation that may or may not be possible, you know. Most of them are possible, and in fact most things that you see in a movie are not only possible, but either could happen or have happened or will happen. You know, it's like that. But essentially anything on the screen are demigod actors, you know, so they don't have to be real actors, you know, pretending to act in a movie. You know, they're all actors. It's just that some of them are pretending to be normal, average human beings talking about things or doing things, and others are like at a higher social rank, you could say, in the reality, but they're all there for the sole purpose of influencing and controlling and extracting energy from a real human being. That's essentially it, because the matrix or the earth, you know, is controlled mainly by, you know, frequency and vibration and energy, because everything is frequency and vibration of energy. But the reason they try to control a real human being is because a real human being can give out either positive or negative energy. A real human being has the potential for high or low frequency or vibration, in other words, positive or negative feelings and emotions. You know, whereas an androgyne doesn't. They only feel they're like the dark beings, and human beings have the potential for light, if you want to put it that way, because an androgyne being is always in low frequency and vibration. They're always feeling, they're always giving out a negative vibration, apart from when they act, which is most of the time where they're acting to be a real life human being. So therefore they will laugh and smile and pretend to be giving out a happy vibration. But that's an act, that's an illusion for me, or for you if you want to feel happy in a positive way, as opposed to feeling happy by only controlling and dominating and literally draining the life and spirit out of a real human being, because you're a survival machine if you are an androgyne, artificially intelligent being, or even a human being that is turned, forsaken their true identity, shall we say, or their true, like their true connection to source, and become very psychopathic. They're pretty much like Adam and Eve taking the hand of Lucifer and walking out the Garden of Eden, saying we don't want to be natural and spiritual anymore. We want to go with the artificial intelligence. We want to find out how to do things differently. Create a different reality, which is essentially what happened. They went from a natural paradise into an AI matrix reality. I'm not sure where that come from when I said that, but basically it just means going from paradise into hell, or from a natural spiritual reality into an artificial hell, if you're a real human being, because one is positive, one is negative, one is light, one is dark. If you prefer living in an artificial darkness, then you take the hand of that's right, you become seduced and lured, and you take the hand of Eve took the hand of Lucifer and walked out of light or paradise, or from a spiritual reality into an artificial, technical matrix. Some people would say the difference between heaven and hell, because if you want to look at it from an earth standpoint, that's how I would describe it. I would say it's the difference between going from heaven and hell in the earth, or from the earth perspective, because I know that, and it's beyond my comprehension, most people see heaven and hell as nothing to do with the earth necessarily. But the earth is still part of everything, and everything is frequency, vibration and energy. And if earth has still some real human beings left in it that have the potential for all frequency and vibration, as opposed to being like an artificial android where you are always only in low frequency and vibration, you want a dead dark reality from a spiritual or natural human standpoint. The only reason I talk into this mobile and say this stuff is because the end time deception, or the end of spiritual human beings, or the end of a natural earth, is the end time deception, because technology is the reverse of spirituality. Because Lucifer wanted to seduce Eve, if you take it from the story, from a book, but it doesn't matter, like it's just really technology taking over from, like a natural spiritual human being. It's just a totally different concept. It's a different way of doing things, and therefore it will create a different reality, and has. It's just that the end time deception is that I didn't know I was living in a totally controlled artificial reality, or that I was being totally controlled and manipulated and used by these things that are on the screen. Because see, that thing on the screen actually using even body language and hand gestures and things to try to control my mind, and sending out negative frequency and vibration, even though it may be selling me a perfectly useful product. This is how it works. I see it daily. I see myself being completely bamboozled and seduced. Basically, it's seduction if you're not aware of it, or it's seduction if you fall for it, or it's seduction if you believe it, or it's seduction if you trust it, that type of thing. This is all, that's a totally artificial androgyne being there on the screen selling something, but it doesn't matter. That is an artificial, intelligent, androgyne android being, 100%, no doubt about it. Look at it. It's mimicking, pretending, acting out, being a real life human being. That is not a real human being in any sense. But it matters not because, it matters not because basically 99% of what is on the computer is that. And I was going to use that professor as an example of how they gradually, according to what they think will make them come across as the most human and the most real and the most believable, they will, over their lifetime, the androids will refine their acting skills. Which is why I tried to show that professor is now more animated and more emotional and more comes across as a lot more feeling, even though it's a self-confessed professor that is a self-confessed psychopathic, narcissistic professor telling you about, psychopathic, narcissistic people that you will probably encounter in your life. And therefore, that's right, that's ultimate seduction, isn't it? Because it's like, hey, I'm a psychopath, trust me, believe in me, I will give you good advice. And the strange thing is they're using truth, telling you what they are, to get you to trust them. And certainly to at least give them your energy, because if you give them, like if I watch these videos, which I do, I'm giving them my time and my energy and my attention, which is all the same thing. It's energy. It means they're getting something from me, and I think I'm getting something from them because I think I'm being informed. But in some people's case, it may be a benefit, because if you're totally in the dark, like I was before it was exposed to me, then you will get information. But the thing is that you probably still won't understand that it's a total end-time deception, because, like I say, it's so easy. I mean, that's just a good example why I use that professor, because, while you're listening to a psychopathic, self-confessed professor telling you about other psychopathic people, you can't help but feel that that professor is maybe not quite as psychopathic as what they really are, not quite as deceiving or as ultimately energy consuming and therefore destructive to you as what you actually would think. And, you know, we know this anyway because we're shown the, you know, we're shown this and we're aware that that most people don't show their bad side. And if you're 100% like Psycho, you're not going to show that. You're not going to show anything about yourself. You're going to totally take qualities and human traits that are more acceptable and more positive from those around you and utilize them so that you can basically survive and be productive in the world. And that would seem reasonable because you would be aware that the world is not really meant for you. It's not really, you know, like this world pretends to be a real human world when it's really not anyway. But it still pretends that. So everyone in it has to go by those rules, shall we say, you know. Because the psychopaths that are around me, they're not out in the open showing their negative traits. Not to everyone anyway. They're showing them to me in a covert, hidden way, you know, in plain sight. Hidden but in plain sight, as they say in a book. So it's plain sight to me, but it may be hidden to anyone else, you know. But either way, you know, like I can hear a very negative noise coming from outside, but it won't be picked up by the mobile because it's not excessively loud. But it's essentially, you know, one of the vehicles on the street, possibly belonging to one of the houses, because I haven't actually looked, but, you know, like I say, keeping its engine going. Even though I shouldn't have to be up, my ears shouldn't have to pick up negative sounds from negative vehicles that are around. And as you can see, it's raining very heavily here, but where is that noise coming from? See, there's it's not going to be picked up by the mobile, but it's essentially like some car engine going that I can hear inside. See, oh, there it is. See, there we go. Look, let's see, right in front. See the, can you see it? See, I wondered where that was coming from, but basically he's been sitting there for you know, like at least 10 minutes, just with the engine running, revving it up. You know, and that's from the directly opposite, you know, which is all the time. But that's but that car is no different to every other car on the road at all. In fact, no different at all, because they all do that. But they can't do it on Henry Street. Today is very quiet. In fact, it's funny that every time I went to pick up the mobile over the last week, they have gone strangely quiet. Because they don't want, you know, because even though they know that even if I show cars pulling in and out, and even if I went down the road and show and can show that, you know, like you really have to show it 24/7. You really have to show that this is what is around you 24/7. That all the cars do these things, or at least the majority, or a number that wouldn't have done it in the past. I never got cars with their headlights on blinding me, literally, because they're like these really high beam headlights on cars on a city street where they have huge street lights. In other words, it's not necessary for cars to have these exceptionally bright lights, the same as most of the bright lights that are around this suburb of Leichhardt even. They do that to intimidate and get in your eyes so that you're aware of them. So you're uncomfortable, so you can't, comfortably walk along a city street even. In other words, it's not necessary or even normal or reasonable for the cars to have these extra bright lights. In fact, they're actually dangerous. They're dangerous for a pedestrian, and they would even be dangerous for other vehicles. But because it is a controlled area where their only interest is in controlling and intimidating a real human being, or something that's different to them, or they see as different to them, that's why they have them. And they never had them before. And cars didn't go on the streets with their headlights on in broad daylight all day like they all do around here either. Even though it's only a psychological move in the daytime. It doesn't actually stop you from looking around, but you're aware of their presence, because when you look up you see that most of the cars and most of the vehicles on the road have the headlights on, which is like open affiliation, openly showing that they're part of this patrol control system in this area, that they're openly part of the military army base that is Leichhardt and the adjoining suburbs. That's what I know for a fact. Anything else I don't talk on in other parts of Sydney or even other countries, because although I know it takes place, it must, and I know it does, it's not what I can openly see or experience, so I don't talk on it. But it is a worldwide matrix, But even that could be part of the delusion for me, because essentially they are about controlling only people that have the potential for positive vibration, positive frequency, and most don't, from at least in my area anyway. And even I am still, even though I think I'm totally aware, I am still kind of seduced by my own wants and needs, but also my what you could call, I suppose, the human propensity to want to believe that everything isn't totally artificial. So, these videos that are here, which are all ones that I've looked at, shows what I'm inclined to gravitate towards, thinking that perhaps it's not all artificial, because everything that is here is all speaking the truth, or, so therefore I see it as positive, even though it is essentially all just a seduction of my mind. Because, I'm just, these are just coming up random, so, but is there anything real here at all? This one is this one here is openly telling you they're not for real, that they're a master manipulator, psychopathic actor. But the truth is still spoken through this professor's mouth. So you see what I'm saying is that even though they're using the truth even still to seduce in an amazing way, but do the spiritual readers have any real connection, or are they part of the game too? You know? What is part of the game? We know the demigods play. In that video, you can see the psychopathic stare in that particular video. I'm going to show that little one, if I can get it up, just to show that this is from a movie. And of course, it's meant to be just a relationship between two people, but it is a controlling relationship. So I have seen this movie years ago, but unfortunately didn't fully comprehend it when I saw it, but comprehend it very strongly now. Very strongly now. But you know, because that actually is about a man and a woman, and the man seduces the woman into a very controlling relationship that that she finds both highly obsessive from her point of view, but like the man is obsessed with her, but she also is obsessed with the man. So it becomes an obsession that both of them are involved with. But the difference is that the man consciously picked her out to seduce her as someone that he wanted to engage in an essentially narcissistic, controlling relationship, you could say. Of course, I didn't realise that when I first saw it. You know, maybe, I don't know, quite a number of years ago now, even though the movie itself is made in the 80s, and it's now 2023, should I say. But you know, the movie, I didn't see it till well after 2000, even though I could have watched it then, because, you know, I'm old enough to have, you know, I'm as old as the actors that were in this movie. But any rate, what I will show that, even though there's no reason for me to show this, but I have to be careful of copyright too. But like this is the video. I might turn the light off so that it comes out. Oh, actually that's not the video. I was going to play the one where it shows, this is actually showing bits from the movie. See, this man actually just consciously, you know, he's a very kind of dominant man that seduces this woman into a very, for her, very fascinating relationship, like she's never encountered anyone like that ever. But it takes her quite a while to realise that yes, he's blindfolding her and he's controlling her. He's controlling her. No, these are just random people, but you know, he's seducing and controlling her. You know, he likes power and control. Of course, over time, strangely enough, he actually, you could say, gets connected to her. But, you know, it's still like where the relationship has to be on his terms. So there it has to be like where he has the dominant controlling role in the relationship. And this is what, even though she's besotted by this man and finds the relationship more exciting than what she could possibly imagine, eventually she realizes it's not for real, it's too intense, and it's like him controlling too much. See how he's like controlling, and I can't, hold on, but I can't really explain it, but you know, but you know, it takes her a long time before she realizes that that it is like being involved with perhaps a I could just say like I don't know how to describe it, but it's like the relationship as fulfilling and as exciting and as enticing as what it is for her. She finally, over time, realizes that it is still about total control, because, you know, can you be happy in a relationship that, even though it is all those things, it is still about control? It is not going to be where it's an you know, it's still based on the Stockholm Syndrome mentality. It's still, I can't, no, I just, it's still based on that need for the relationship has to be under the control of the man in this movie. Like he's orchestrating the whole relationship, like he's deciding, you know, he's deciding like perhaps where they go, what they're doing, their activities, and for her it is very unusual and exciting, and she's never experienced anything like it before, and she becomes completely infatuated and attracted to this man. And even though she is, like happens with most psychopathic people, where there will be moments that are extremely fulfilling and extremely apparently loving, there will also be other times when it's disturbing and unnatural for you, and where you normally would want to walk away or avoid it. So it becomes like that, to where the relationship is where you become enmeshed with something that is not really what you would normally want, but because it is glossed over with things that you do really want, And it is the same as the relationships with the artificial androgyne beings, which make up most of reality, where they're acting out like a movie your wants and needs, and even your secret desires, even, I'm just trying to use it from a movie standpoint, like it will appear to fulfill your dreams, but you will be aware that it also will be fulfilling your nightmares too. That's putting it eloquently, but because your nightmares will be part of your dream, you have to make that decision, like the girl in this movie, whether she wants to continue with that dream, but she will also have to accept the control and the nightmares. And the aim of the man is to seduce her into accepting the nightmares as being part of the dream. So in other words, she has to accept the things that she finds disturbing as much as the things that she finds fulfilling, and it's all rolled into a love type relationship, which she finds hard to resist and can't resist. But the question is, can she break away from it when she realizes that there's too much control? She doesn't want the nightmare aspect. She doesn't want the unstable, insane reality that this man, as exciting and as enticing and as beguiling as what it is, beguiling, because that's a good word. Because when you're beguiled, you are taken in, you're taken over, but it isn't going to be for your benefit in the long run, no. And this is what this lady has to make this decision, or she doesn't have to, but she realizes at some point that she has to make the decision whether that's right, whether this relationship should be something that she continues on into the future, because she's loving it in the moment in a way. She can't resist it. But she also knows, as she says at the end of the movie, she had to be the one to make the decision to say no or to walk away. She knew that he never would, because, although he's not, even though he's offered her a relationship, it's not a singular relationship. It's not like you're the only one. No, it's like you might be number one, but you won't be the only one, because a controller, or the even the androids in the reality, if you want to look at it, forget the movie for a second, they require backup. They're about supply. They're about getting the energy supply from a human being. You might be their number one, in the sense that you might be like this lady in this one, the most beautiful, strongest human source of supply. But that's right, there's always the potential or the possibility that you might want to walk away at some point, or consider that, because it is too controlling. And it's too chaotic, because it's not like a real human being. It may be, the insane, reckless character of an android is always going to appear very exciting and enticing to a lot of human beings, particularly if your life has been dull and restricted. So there's always going to be that good and bad, but this is a reality where, as they say, it's a spiritual reality. So therefore, a spiritual human being has got to, supposed to anyway. I said got to, but really you're supposed to, but like that lady, it requires a lot of strength in the mind and a lot of willpower to unlove what you really love and what you're really attracted to. It takes a lot of willpower and a lot of strength, a lot of spirituality to walk away from something that you don't really want to walk away from. But you know that it is not going to be a benefit to your spirituality in the long run. You know, and even in the present, it is, you know, it will be taking from you, even though it will be insidious and slow, so you won't realise. You won't, and also you know, that relationship. Also, if you're dealing with an android or those that aren't spiritual, basically that relationship will change over time too. So, you know, you fall in love with a moment in time. You fall in love with what they call, you know, like the romance that is often at the beginning of most relationships. But a real relationship doesn't stay romantic for a lifetime. Doesn't mean it can't stay and still be loving, no. But there is a difference between love and lust, and there is a difference between real relationship and romance. They can go hand in hand for a while, but it's when you get past the romance or the rose-coloured glasses of everything being hearts and flowers, where everyone's on their best behaviour because they see potential in someone, and therefore they're, you know, consciously trying to, you know, show themselves at their best and bring out the best in the other person. But if it's like with the androids, where it's totally false, totally a charade, totally just an act. See, it's one thing to, you know, to try to show your better points, but not camouflaging what you really are as well. That's kind of normal, and you know how you would interact with, you know, someone that you think is a possible connection. But if you're an android, you're basically not showing your true self at all. It's a total charade, it's a total act. It's basically just showing you what you want to see, putting you into that romance. And like the psychology experts will tell you, even though they are part of this AI system, and they are the androgyne demigods that control most of the what you see on a screen, they're still telling you the truth of how they operate and how they use the romance element in a relationship, like when you first start or connect with anyone. You know, I suppose there's romance in all. Romance simply means that you're seeing the relationship through rose-coloured glasses, or that you're seeing, you're mainly being presented with the positive aspects of it. And that can even be in looser relationships. It doesn't have to be where you're looking for a totally, you know, love, long-term partnership, shall we say. It doesn't mean that you want to, you know, be happily married and, you know, live happily ever after just with one person. No, it could just be, it could be lesser relationships too. But it doesn't, but usually it's more obvious in when you're looking for the whole deal. You know, how should I say it? But the rose-coloured glasses is what human beings tend to want to look for the positive anyway when they interact with people. And they tend to dismiss negative points because they know that's part of life. But they don't realise that if you're interacting with an androgyne being, that there is no positive aspects from your point of view. In that movie that I was going to get the thing up, but don't think I can now. Wait on, I might be able to get it on the music thing because I did play it, whereas otherwise I'd have to put the whole thing in and it will be too hard to do that. So I might just see if I can put it here. For some reason, this thing is not coming up right. Why is it not coming up right? Why is it not coming up? Why is it coming only on this thing? Hold on, I'm doing something wrong here. Yep. Oh, hold on. Actually, I have found it. Only by a little bit of luck there, but okay, so I was going to use that movie called 9.5 Weeks as an example of what can take place when you're really interacting at a personal relationship level with an androgyne being that appears to be a real life spiritual human being. And I emphasise the word spiritual because that simply means the difference between whether you have the intention or the potential for the ability to experience and want to give out positive human emotions, like where you're not about total control and essentially taking from another human being or from any life. You're not about that. You're not about that. That's not what makes you feel happy or what we call a higher vibration. It's but I don't think that perhaps I shouldn't be showing this video even because but essentially in this particular video, this is a music video. It's where the girl is like entered into a relationship, but she's doing a dance here for him, but as you can see, like for him it's a love-hate relationship. Can you see the intense? Whereas for her, she doesn't really know what she's getting herself into. Like she actually doesn't. She actually just is besotted or beguiled. But she realises because of the reality that relationship does have, it's very overwhelming for her, in the sense that she is being involved with a controller, you know, which is the same as, you know, an android, because an android is about controlling a human being in order to extract energy from them, you know. So that's how it works. But, you know, I don't. And sometimes you can get hooked by it all. Hooked by it all. Consumed by it all. Enticed by it all. The androids, and even what is termed very self-absorbed human beings, but self-absorbed to the exclusion of any association with another human being, for instance. I just got sidetracked by my own. I just got sidetracked there, so I didn't actually know that, so I got sidetracked. So I got sidetracked by, I have to fold up because I've actually just lost my whole train of thinking there, so I will stop the video.